Hello lovely people, this is Joshua from Tubernize and I'm very happy to start this How to Study series. The reason we are starting this series is, well, at least for our students, or even if you are not a Tubernize student, we like to talk about what it means to study, because everyone has different ideas about studying, different ways of looking at studying, different interpretations of studying. So we are going to talk about how Tubernize approach studying. It's such a broad concept, isn't it? And that is why we are going to break this broad concept into three parts, largely learning, simple memorization, and revising. So learning, memorizing, revising. So we're gonna break studying into these three parts. And today we're going to start off with revision and how to achieve effective revision, and by talking about what we mean by revision. All right, so let's get right to it. Revision, unlike simple memorization or learning, it can only take place when you received certain input, when you received certain teaching. Maybe you have just been to a lecture, a lesson, and you were taught of something, and now you are having to revisit and revise. So we are assuming that, of course, you are taught something. It's very different from self-study, of course. You can teach yourself something and revise, of course, but we are here strictly talking about input made by teachers and basically other people other than yourself. All right, so why does revision, this part of studying, feels like a drag or a chore or even painful? Is probably because you haven't really understood or grasped the concept well. So if you understood, in other words, if you received comprehensible input, if you understood the input well, it'll be far easier and burden will be much lighter for you to revisit what you've been taught and replay in your head. Revision is basically replaying things in your head, revisiting and checking to see if what you have understood is what basically you have been taught. So basically comparing what you understand right now to what you are actually taught. So it's fact checking, it's a triangulation process. So like any other studying skills, revision needs to take place regularly. You need to make this, you need to build a system, really. You need to get this down, and you need to make this your habit. Otherwise, it'll be harder. It'll be hard to revise and look at it. Because why? Because it's not your habit. This is not something, if this is not something you do every day at a certain time, if it's not in your system, it's not your habit, then of course it'll be hard. And of course it'll massively help if you understood what you've been taught. So it becomes important that you learn correctly, isn't it? If you learned correctly, if you learned well, if you have good understanding, the burden will be much lighter for you to revisit. So how does revision look like? At least for Tubernize, we always write something down. There isn't a class where we don't write something down. So for Tubernize students, it'll be basically checking to see first what you can replay in your head matches with what you have written down. So it's fact checking, like I said. And of course, if what you have written down isn't comprehensible to you, it's a problem. That's why handwriting does play a big role. I always tell my students this: you need to be kind to yourself, you need to treat yourself well, and good handwriting is one way of being kind to yourself, because if you can see and if you have written down, it is easy to read and understand, and if what you have drawn is nice and pretty and you like what you've drawn or make note of it, of course it'll be easy for you to revisit and revise, isn't it? In fact, your mental picture will be much clearer than messy handwriting. In fact, messy handwriting and messy note equals to messy mind. So you need to be kind to yourself. In fact, most of the students I know, they do not like what they've written down already because somehow it is painful. Why? Largely because what they have written down isn't very well organized. And As I shared in the previous video, we believe that media is message. How you organize, how you draw your mental map does play a big role because what you draw in your head is what you will replay in your head. So we make sure at Turbaniz that you draw a nice, neat mental map so that you can replay and you can regurgitate whenever you need to. And that, my friend, becomes part of your skill, part of you. So studying basically means being able to recall and play back and apply whenever you feel like it, whenever you want to. And for that to happen, revision is crucial, and you need to do this every day. And I always advise my students to spend at least 30 minutes replaying the video in your head and checking to see if what you can memorize, what you can replay matches with what you have written down. Easier said than done, because making something part of you, making something into a habit does take time. Give or take 6 months. You need to do this every day for 6 months, then it is part of you. So it is arduous work. I wouldn't lie, it's a lot of work. It can be exhausting even, but once you've got it, once it is part of you, once it's part of your system, wow, rest is highway for you. As you do it every day, you will be more effective at it. Your brain will adjust to it. You will find yourself getting into the zone quicker. At first, it'll be always a struggle. You don't want to do it. You will end up messing with your phone or computers, whatnot, suddenly finding something more interesting to do. Look, you need to sit down at your desk at a certain time and just shut yourself down from the rest of the world and revisit what you have studied. There is golden time for revision, and that's when? Right after what you've learned. So don't miss the golden timing. After you learn something, make sure that you go home and replay, revisit, revise, right? Such crucial thing to do. Cannot emphasize this enough, all right? So hopefully this will help, and hope you achieve effective revision time. And we'll come back with the next series. Next time we will probably talk about learning, right? Thank you for listening, and bye-bye.
Two bunnies making new ways.